The Spirit of a Child. Okazaki Sessei. I was 13 years old, so it was exactly in the third year of the Kyoto era. At that time, I was living in a bookstore on Teramachi Street in Kyoto. Around that time, a baby boy was born to the owner and his wife. Strangely, the baby had no anus, and because of this, he died on the morning of the third day after his birth. Soon, relatives and neighbors gathered together, and one night, they held what is called a yutogi in the area, or Atsuya in Tokyo, and this began for the first time. It was winter, and the surrounding area was extremely quiet, but the sound of a bell could be heard lonely. Normally, I would sleep next to the pile of books in the store, so that night, after finishing my business, it was already late, so I went to bed alone as usual. As the night went on, perhaps the people who were providing the night service began to feel sleepy, and the sound of the gongs gradually faded into the distance until only the sound of one or two people striking the bells could be heard from time to time. It used to be called Nanatsu Sagari, or about 4 o'clock now. When I suddenly woke up and saw something like a puff of smoke, oval in shape and about the size of a baby, floating out from a corner of the dirt floor leading from the store to the back. The pale red light from the wick flowed towards the store, that is, towards the bottom of the futon where I was sleeping, and was reflected in the screen that was about 3 feet wide. It passed by the child and whooshed into the room where the people for the nighttime entertainment were gathered. After it went in, the shadow of the pale red light gradually faded into the shadows until it was pitch black. Then, after a short while, it appeared from the back again, returned to its original place, and disappeared with a whoosh. Even as a child I thought it was strange, but at the time it never crossed my mind that it was frightening. I sat up on the floor to get a better look, and it popped out again, and just like that, it went off into the back room. Soon after, it appeared again and disappeared. I stared at the vague oval shape, and it looked like it had small hands clasped together, but I couldn't see its head or feet. It was just a gray gas. I repeated the same thing 3 times, but then it stopped and there was nothing. I was also wondering if there were strange things, and I ended up falling asleep. When the morning came, I immediately told my host's elderly mother about the strange thing I had seen that morning. She seemed surprised, but told me not to tell anyone about it. I didn't know why at the time, but she firmly forbade me. A few days later, however, I had to go to Chishakuin Temple, which I often visited, in front of the great Buddha, and as usual, I went there with my books on my back. I was usually familiar with the head priest, so I told him about what I had seen the other night. He laughed and asked me if I had been scared. I replied that I hadn't felt anything like that, which was impressive, but when he told me that it was a so-called ghost, I was even more frightened. After hearing that, I was creeped out as a child, and I couldn't sleep that night. Here is what I actually saw.